Hello and welcome to my channel. It's story time. This has been requested, a story has been requested by my brother Keith. This is for you, Keith. Mrs. Pepper's art class. Mrs. Pepper was the teacher at Alicia's school, and for one of the school trips, Mrs. Pepper took the class to an art gallery. They did not have to travel far when they came upon a really big old-looking building. Mrs. Pepper had said to them to keep in line and not wander off. It was a big building, and she did not want to spend all the time looking for lost pupils. On the second floor of the art gallery, there was the main hall, and in this hall there was just one painting on the wall. Unusual, you might think, that this hall only had one picture. There were, however, some seats to sit on, not particularly comfortable seats, more like benches. They were padded. The idea was that you could stand or sit and look right into the picture. Take your time, inwardly digest what you were seeing without any distraction from other works of art around the walls. When Alicia's class found its way to the main hall, she gasped with amazement. Her eyes nearly popped out of her head. Mrs. Pepper, her teacher, asked if she was all right, and she did let out a great intake of breath noise. Alicia said, "Yes, thank you, Mrs. Pepper. I was just looking at the picture, and it sort of came alive to me." "I know just what you mean, Alicia," said Mrs. Pepper. "It's very colourful, isn't it?" By now the rest of the class, who had also entered the main hall, were making a rather loud noise. Mrs. Pepper had to say, "Shh." It was an art gallery after all, not the playground. They quietened down and took it in turn to really look into the picture. For some, it was simply a lot of colour. For others, it was a case of seeing how many different things they could find to identify. Given that it was only one picture, there was rather a lot going on in it. But if you look very carefully, in one of the flower heads, it seemed to lead you to a secret garden, a secret place. Of course, it helped if you had a good imagination. All this time, while the other members of the class were looking into and at the picture, Alicia sat quietly on one of the benches, simply staring at it, as if in a world of her own. Mrs. Pepper had said that once they got back to school, they would be writing a story about the art gallery and their favourite picture. That was easy for Alicia. The big flower-head picture in the main hall was definitely her favourite. She knew exactly what she wanted to write. The other rooms in the gallery had different theme in each one of them. There was the Lowry room. This was a collection of pictures by the painter L.S. Lowry. He painted in the main buildings and stick men and people. There was a vehicle room with lots of cars and lorries in it, along with some Cuban cars, old but very interesting. The boys in the class particularly liked that room. Then there was what was called a pig people room. This room had lots of what were, in a sense, a pattern people in the shape of a peg, along with a very colourful flower on the same picture. Very effective, thought Mrs. Pepper. There was also a portrait room, an animal room, and an abstract painting room. Something for everyone to enjoy. Mrs. Pepper had chosen to take the class on this particular day, as she knew there would be such a variety for all the children to see, and each and every one of them would find at least one picture they wanted to write about when they were back at school the next day. When you go into art galleries, you find all manner of pictures. A lot of them put on different exhibitions throughout the year. This is why Mrs. Pepper had chosen this particular day to visit. She hoped that the children would like what they were seeing. Not for them, old-fashioned artwork, but was more contemporary pieces. The visit was over all too soon for lots of the children. Any excuse to escape the classroom. It was good fun. They all got back onto the coach, and once Mrs. Pepper was happy that all the children were on board, off they set back for the school. By the time they reached the school, the mothers were all waiting to take the children home for the day. There were lots of conversations going on about what the children had seen. Mrs. Pepper hoped they would still have the enthusiasm in their school the next day. Back at school. This is the next day, each of the children took out their workbooks and with a prompt from Mrs. Pepper, started to recall their visit to the art gallery. For once, the classroom was rather quiet. Each child had their heads buried in their workbooks, feverishly writing away. Some were also trying to draw pictures to accompany their words. There were many pictures in the gallery, and the children all picked different pictures. Some were chosen for their colour, some were chosen for their subject. There are even children who had chosen an abstract picture simply because of the strangeness of it. Alicia was writing about the sunflower picture. That was a picture that caught her imagination right from the moment she walked into the main hall and saw it hanging there, all on its own. She started off by describing the picture, a kind of list form. This would aid her in her writing up her work fully. She wrote: 1. Very big picture. 2. Lots of colour. 3. A funny-looking striped cat. 4. 2 faces looking out. 5. A butterfly. 6. A dragon. 7. A bird. All in one picture. Once she had her list, then she could elaborate on what she saw and actually she felt when looking at it. Yellow was her favourite colour. This was probably what drew her attention to the picture in the first place. Each flower head was so bright, and when you looked closer, each head had a different picture inside of it. Oh yes, there were a couple of heads that actually looked like sunflower heads, but in the main it was a very varied picture. Not real flowers like a photograph, but still nice to look at, and you knew exactly what flowers they were. Sunflowers. Alicia's granny grew sunflowers on her allotment. They were really big. Bigger than Granny's greenhouse. They had bamboo canes holding them up because the actual flower heads are really heavy and would fall over if left on their own. Back to the picture. In one of the heads on the picture, there were what looked like to be 2 funny toys made out of material. In another was a lady's face. Well, in 2 of the heads, actually. Then in the middle, there was another flower, but this head was different. All the other flowers' heads had backgrounds, just like the actual head of the sunflowers. In this instance, the flower heads looked like a lot of dots. In 3 colours, but still a lot of dots. The one particular sunflower head seemed to draw you into the picture, to transport you to another place, a magical place. Magical in that it looked so nice, so peaceful, so inviting. For Alicia, it led to a time when she went on holiday to Spain, Estepona in Spain, with her family. They stayed on a complex, and that was full of white apartments, lots of flowers around, just like the sunflower in the sunflower head. The complex was right by the seaside, and there were steps down to the actual seashore. The sand was funny, though, Alicia thought. It was grey, not like the beaches she was used to at home of a brownish sand colour. There were also parasols along the beach because of the hot sun that shone through all day to aid in a way of getting some shade and not getting burnt. The complex was really nice. It also had a swimming pool, all of its own, a games room, a restaurant, a cafe, a shop that had lots of bits and bobs you might need when on holiday, tea and coffee, and milk and bread. That would save you driving to the main shops if you didn't want to. The sunflower picture was more to Alicia than just a picture. It transported her back to her favourite family holiday. She thought that was really clever. It gave her a very happy, warm feeling inside, which she liked. What sort of artwork would you have liked to have seen in the gallery? It's rather small, but let's just show you the picture of what was in the gallery, which was what Alicia was telling her story about. There you go. Lots to see and do in that one. I do hope you've enjoyed the story, and I do hope Brothers enjoyed the story. It was a different one for him. More to come. Do subscribe. Never miss out on a story. Bye-bye for now.